God made people. I make dolls. I guess that makes me a goddess. That's what I tell my husband. I hope you won't get too freaked out if I talk about God. You're at a party and someone you don't know too well comes up and says, "So, what do you think about God?" I don't mean to intrude, on your privacy, but I have to a little if I want to get to what I really want to talk about, okay? It's kind of embarrassing for me. I don't do it all the time. I almost never do it, I swear. And when I say God, I'm not sure I mean God in the religious sense. Right, I know. What other sense is there when you're talking about God? But religion is such a huge... When I say God, I mean the thing or being or power that created everything that we're aware of. The creative force, okay? That's what I'm talking about. The maker. And we call him God because he didn't leave a card or anything, so we give him that syllable. God. I think of God as being our father and the earth is our mother. I don't know why. I don't have any scientific basis for it. I just do, okay? But I'm really here to talk about dolls. I know, as a topic of conversation, that's not much better than God. I mean, same party, they come up to you and say, "Hey, what do you think about dolls?" Some icebreaker, huh? Why do I make dolls? Well, I like to do it. It's fun. And I can clearly see that they give pleasure to people. Sometimes more than just pleasure. The dolls mean a lot to people. I read about a class where they taught you how to do it, and I signed up, and the class was pretty much of a bomb, but I learned just enough to get started. I like creativity. I like making things. Must be the goddess in me. I've always made things. Drawings, painting, clothes, a garden, food. I'm a great cook. I make the world's best fruit pies. And now the dolls. I don't know if I played with dolls when I was young. I know I had a few, but this isn't about those kind of dolls anyway. These are, handmade dolls that are as lifelike, I guess, as possible. They're not toys. I can tell you how I make the dolls, step by step, do this, now this, now this. But you also have to know that I make them from the inside out, by which I mean that each doll has a kind of soul, which is why I had to talk a little bit about God, because souls are connected to God. You can tell when a doll has a soul and when one doesn't. For that reason, I would never make an evil doll. I've made dolls of damaged people, hurt people, starving children, and a child prostitute. But I've never made an evil doll, because if I did, then it would really be evil, and I don't want to be responsible for that. Because if it was really evil, then it would do bad things or cause bad things to happen. Voodoo dolls. You might be thinking, does she really believe that? Yeah, I do. I've made a lot of dolls now, and I believe it more every time I do. It's like the more I make, the more I understand about it, the more real they become. I know, I'm starting to sound like Geppetto. People have sent me pictures of their children, like this one couple sent me a picture of their little girl who died in a swimming pool. She drowned. In a backyard pool, 2 years old. And I did make a doll for them, but only because I thought it might help. It was kind of eerie, but I did it. Most of the dolls I make are completely of my own design. Now, like I said, behind all this is the Geppetto effect. That's what I call it. Pinocchio and the Nutcracker, the idea that a doll could actually come to life. Not that it could ever happen, okay? But the idea is real, that possibility. Do you see what I mean? That's part of every doll. That's the soul of the doll. That potential is there. Before I started making dolls, I was mostly doing graphic art and painting. The dolls gave me a chance to work in 3 dimensions. I wanted to try that. Making the first one was a real process of discovery for me. I just wanted to see if I could do it. So at first it was just a technical thing. Could I do it? As I was doing it, it changed. I like the dolls. I mean personally. As I work on each one, they become very real for me as individuals. That's what I mean about the inside out. See, it takes a lot of time to make a doll. If I work hard at it, doing nothing else, I can finish maybe one in a week. I make the head and features and paint in the details of the face, make the body, the arms and legs, hands and feet, the hair, and then I make the clothes and jewelry and the other little things that go with whoever the doll is. Because each doll is an individual. That's what I meant about Pinocchio and the Inside Out. And I think a lot about that individual while I'm making the doll. My husband says I think too much about it. I tell him to cool it. He shouldn't talk like that to a goddess. You got to be respectful, right? I figure that God thought a lot about people while he was creating them, even if it only took him a split second to do it. I still think he gave it a lot of thought because he's a real deep thinker. His imagination is like our reality, okay? Or any reality, or anything he thinks of, boom, it's there. And a split second would be like an eternity for him anyway.